My name is Major General Retired Pastor Wita. I'm the chairman of the Kenya Railways Board of Directors. The Sherpa of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. Jonathan Black, Your Excellency Julius Court, the Deputy British High Commissioner in Kenya, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Transport, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works, Engineer Joseph Njoroge or his representative, the Director of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, Lieutenant General Mohammad Badi, Director General Investments at the National Treasury and Planning, Engineer Kamau. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, habari zenu. I would like to start by recognizing my Kenya Railways Board members present here today. I see Mr. Martin Mogwanja, Dr. Duncan Hunda, Humphrey Muhu, and Hassan Alawi. Then the management team, represented by Engineer Michael Mutogo and Surveyor Benedict Ndege. The Managing Director, Kenya Railways, will join us in a few minutes. He's having an early meeting at the Treasury. And finally, members here present, the Project Ministerial Technical Committee, which entails the Office of the Attorney General, the State Department of Transport, the State Department of Infrastructure, the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the National Treasury and Planning. On behalf of Kenya Railways, we are grateful and overwhelmed by the auspicious occasion of the realization of Phase 1 of our project, the Railway City, and in particular to launch and hand over the final design of the new central station, our Boma. Kenya Railways has embarked on a rapid rehabilitation and expansion of our services to the peoples of Kenya. In this regard, we thank the National Treasury and Planning, the State Department of Transport, the Office of the Attorney General, and the enabling State Department is supporting us in this great, impactful project. I now take this opportunity to ask our consultants, KPMG, represented by James, to take us through the key highlights of the Phase 1 of this project. Thank you very much, all. James, please.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is James Woodward. I'm a director at KPMG here in Nairobi. I lead the Transport and Infrastructure Advisory team, and very happy to be with you here today in person. The last of these events, my wife told me this morning I'm wearing the same jacket as January. I was in Sydney and was presented on the screen, so a slightly smaller version of me today to take you through the presentation. What we want to focus on here today is to give some context to the site for people that are new to what Railway City means. And then we want to work through what are the component parts here that are really going to be moving forward as part of Phase 1. There's a lot of work that's been going into this, as we've heard from the General, across the Government of Kenya, with quite a bit of support coming from the UK Government through different services, bringing lots of British expertise and having done similar projects to the fore here in Kenya. So I will just take us through here, if I just come back. So starting from the site here, to put us into context, it's 425 acres right on the edge of the central business district. So some of the most prime underutilised land in the country. It is currently a live railway site with over 56 lines servicing the Uganda railways, the meter gauge, and the centre for the commuter rail for Nairobi. So what we are looking at here is trying to revitalize the city and to create a new beating heart for Nairobi. So geographically, we have the CBD to the north. We have Uhuru Park there to the west. To the southwest, we have the railway's golf course. And then to orient yourselves from the main roads, we have Uhuru Highway. Then at the north, Haile Selassie Avenue. To the east, Landys Road. And then across the bottom, Bunyala Road. So heading down into the industrial area. So when we talk about Railway City and we're talking about how this project is going to kick off, what is coming first? Well, the centre of this project is Nairobi Central Station. So while the station has been around for over 100 years, given the expectations of expansion of the rail network, we do need to see that this station is fit for purpose and is iconic enough to be a draw for this entire site. So we have the central station, and then moving right up to the main road, we will have a major public realm space. Now, I'm purposefully using a very low resolution cartoon style image because we will have Atkins that will be presenting, doing a grand reveal of what that's going to look like, but to orient you, it sits right in the center there. We also have bus rapid transit that will be coming in there, which is a critical part of how this project is going to become a transit-oriented development for public transport and movement of people in and out of the city. Beyond that, we are looking at flows from the north to the south. So at the moment, with all the rail lines through the centre of the site, we have almost an edge to the CBD, but we want to make sure that it's very accessible to the south. We have a covered pedestrian bridge that will be commencing very shortly. Beyond that, we have a viaduct road that will be connecting the north to the south, traversing the tracks on Enterprise Road. We will then eventually, as part of then Phase 1B, have a second viaduct along Workshop Road as well. So lots of activity to open up the south side of the site as well. But this is not just about doing an infrastructure project, this is about trying to create that new beating heart of a city. We have to look at what the commercial development opportunities are here as well. So as part of Phase 1, while we are doing all the bulk infrastructure required to create a sense of place, we are also looking at a number of government-related buildings that will be moving to the site to really show the government of Kenya's commitment to this project taking off. So we have the proposed Ministry of Foreign Affairs new headquarters. Then on the north of the site, we have an office precinct that will be predominantly housing government workers from a number of different departments. We've done quite a bit of work looking at the demand and the needs for that. 6 government buildings, medium density, high amenity, and looking to make sure that this is quite a green development and climate resilient as well. Next to the 6 government buildings, there will be an opportunity for 2 commercial buildings in this Phase 1 as well. And alongside that, a multi-storey car park. So we want to make sure that this is accessible for people driving in and working in this zone. The anticipation for that project is that we will be able to execute this with private investment, and it will be run as a PPP project. Then beyond that as well, we are looking at, as we are creating a city here, it also needs to be a place that people can be living as well. And so on the south side, to be kicking off the development, we are looking at the potential of a housing precinct, approximately 700 units to start with. We've had quite a bit of investor interest in looking at different types of housing as part of Phase 1, but at a minimum, we're looking at approximately 700 units. Again, a private sector development opportunity. As part of the KPMG team, we also have here Arup, who represented by Caroline and Nirav at the back of the room there. And we also have MMC Asafo, represented by Esther Omalele, the managing partner here as well. And so when we've been working together as a team on the phasing of the implementation of Railway City, one of the key pieces has been around the land due diligence. And so we've made sure that in reviewing all the titles of the entire site, what we are working towards is the most accessible land there so that these transactions can move with a bit of speed. Now, when we're talking about this being a transit-oriented development, this is not just increasing the capability of the central station for the commuter rail trains to move through. There is much more to it than that. So when we, as a transit-oriented development, we're looking at all modes of public transport and how that can be integrated here. So one of the first steps that we have, for anyone that knows this site well, is while we are talking about a wonderful public realm at the front that is currently covered by matatus and public service vehicles, in extensive consultation with the public service vehicle associations, there has been an agreement on a relocation of the matatus to make sure it works for them and it works for the railway city development. So the first of those, and I will leave it to General Badi to give us the detail on timing, but the first of those relocations is to Green Park. The site is ready. A lot of work's been done around the infrastructure to ensure seamless routes in and out for matatus, not interrupting other traffic flow to that terminal. We then have on the east of the site at the Landys Road roundabout and intersection, another terminus for the PSVs to be able to, coming from the east and then back out again. On the south side, coming up from Bunyala Road, another terminus from those coming directly from the south up to a drop-off point and back again. And then to complete how the PSVs will be interacting on the edges of the city, slightly north of this image, at Waterfront, around Globe Roundabout there, we will have another terminus for those coming from the north. So a lot of integration and working with the PSVs, those public service vehicle associations, to make sure that this is going to work for the site. So while we are looking at moving the PSVs to a more appropriate location, bringing people in from outside the city, we're then looking at how are we going to move people within the city. And so the solution that's been worked on, fully aligned with the Nairobi Integrated Urban Transport and Master Plan, is the implementation of BRT, so the bus rapid transit that will be coming on board, more private sector investment opportunities around that as well. So just a number of the lines that we've got here coming up from the south, you'll see sort of picking up at the points where the matatus are finishing, heading right through past the central station and then up north. Once our bridge is built, we will have an even faster route straight up Enterprise Road. A second route coming from Gong Road, straight across the front of the site, straight past where the matatus will be at Green Park, heading up across the city and turning around again. Then we have routes coming down from the north as well that will come through, effectively terminating at the central station in phase one and heading out again. But then in the longer term, we'll be able to head across our second viaduct bridge and further down. So this transit-oriented development is looking at how are we incorporating the BRT, how are we incorporating the public service vehicles, how are we incorporating non-motorised transport, and all linking to the extensive expansions that are being looked upon for the commuter rail services as well. So just to come back to the original slide here, so the work that we have all been doing collectively across the consultants and across Government of Kenya is about enabling phase one. And while we have a governance structure in place across government that we've been working on to make sure that this is very friendly for investors, a one-stop shop approach. Both National Treasury and the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure have allocated Kenya Railways as the implementing agency across the site. We have multi-agency teams that are working across different parts of government to support Kenya Railways in executing this critical project. So the governance is there. We have prepared the projects, the procurement approach, the financing approach for every one of those phase one projects. And the most important one to launch with has to be at the heart of this, the central station and its public realm. So on that basis, I think we, as I finish my presentation, we will transition into a video, and I'll invite my good friend Chris Crombie from Atkins, who's been leading on the designs of the central station to do the grand reveal, as has been worked on in partnership with Canwell and the team from Howard Humphreys as well. So Chris, we'll invite you up as the video plays. Thank you.
Well, first of all, good morning. I hope you all enjoyed that video. My name is Chris Crombie. I'm the design director for the project here, representing the team of Atkins and Howard Humphreys. Today in the room I'm joined by two colleagues, Phil Dowrick and Darren Gill, both from Atkins, and many, many colleagues from our partners at Howard Humphreys. We spent the last 4 or 5 months developing the designs for Kenya Railways and the future of Central Station. We've thoroughly enjoyed the project, and it is incredibly exciting to get to this stage now and have the opportunity to present to you the vision that we've prepared. There are a number of things I'm going to talk about today, and a number of themes I'm going to keep on coming back to. The first is ambition. I think this project is the most ambitious project I've ever worked on, and the potential for it to have a real impact on the city of Nairobi, I think, is almost immeasurable. The second is authenticity. I'm very conscious that we have an exceptional international team working on this project, but we're very conscious that this needs to be an authentic part of Nairobi and a key piece of Kenya in the bigger picture. And the third is sustainability. As a team, we've focused from the very start on sustainability and how we can make sure this station is really a vision of the future of how transport buildings can be delivered, but also a new benchmark for Kenya in how buildings of this type can embrace the climate change that we're all facing in the years to come. I'll just fumble my way through the clicker. So I thought I would start. I think there's a number of different ways to talk about this project, and I like to talk about it in the macro, so the biggest scale, and also in the micro, in the kind of the smallest scale. On the macro scale, and I think James touched on this project's about connections. It's about connecting people with place, with city, and basically knitting things back together again. So at the largest scale, we are very conscious that the station has a part to play in the kind of greater country of Kenya. But we're also conscious in the city of Nairobi that it has a part to play in connecting to other transport modes, such as the airport, as James has said, the BRT, but also beginning to connect into the local modes of transport, such as walking, potentially cycling, and other modern urban transport modes. As James has said, we're very much looking at this as the first step of a much, much bigger project. And we're very conscious that the first step has to be the right step to make sure that as this project is delivered, we don't find that we've compromised opportunity or we've lessened potential. So again, we're looking at the station as the first piece of a master plan. We've designed it such that it will integrate in the future with the master plan, but it also enables the master plan to happen. I've worked on projects around the world of this type, and I've seen the potential that railway stations can bring to cities when delivered in this way, and transport-orientated development is a very clear, sustainable method of development that allows people to connect easily with public transport and development. There's a number of different things clearly going on around the station. Our design focuses on what we've called the station building and the public realm. So that's very much the station building that connects people to the railways, and the public realm is the element that connects people to the city. And our job as designers is to make sure that both are exceptional places for Nairobi and for Kenya, but also that the two come together in a very symbiotic and complementary way. So we've looked very hard at what will happen to the east and to the west of the station in the future. We've looked at how that development will link into the public spaces, and we've looked at how the station needs to be shaped and formed in order that people, when they're approaching today, have a front door, but also in the future have a front door as well. Coming back to this theme of ambition, I don't think there is a more ambitious project that I know of in the world at the moment than this project, and I think the architecture needs to be equally ambitious. So we've proposed a confident piece of architecture, an assertive piece of architecture, and an iconic piece of architecture that can be recognised within the city centre of Nairobi. We've picked up on themes from Kenya, we've picked up on themes from Nairobi, working with our local team and speaking to the inhabitants and locals of Nairobi. We've picked up the culture of Nairobi, and we've tried to represent that within the building that we've created, and I'll come back to that later on. The other thing we've tried to do is make sure that the building is again, equally visible from the city as it can be. So we've looked at the visibility of the station from Haile Selassie Avenue and how the public realm will be approached and visible from other parts of the city too. Coming back to the theme of sustainability, which I'll come back to a number of times in this presentation, we've looked at a number of different approaches to ensure that this building is as sustainable as possible. Now, it's not just the building. When I talk about sustainability, this is the public realm as well, and we've looked at a number of different themes, methods and techniques to ensure that the overall development comes together as one sustainable, resilient proposal. So we've looked at elements such as photovoltaic panels, we've looked at natural ventilation of the buildings, we've looked at the integration of biodiversity and biophilia, but we've also picked up on perhaps more subtle themes such as flexibility, ensuring that the building can grow over time to accommodate the changes in passenger demand, and reusing elements of the station where we don't need to knock them down, which is a clear direction of travel at the moment in terms of reuse. So again, coming back to this theme of outside and inside, so we have the building connecting to the railway, but we have the public space connecting to the city. And we've designed the public realm in particular with a series of spaces. We've envisaged the public realm as an extension of the Station Concourse. We know there's going to be lots of people using the railway when we create this fantastic facility. So we've looked at the public realm as an extension of the concourse where people can meet, they can gather, they can socialise before or after getting onto a train. But we're also very conscious that the public realm, particularly around the station, becomes a connector for the city today and in the future. So we've looked at creating as much space as possible, we've created places to stop, but we've also integrated planting, green space, and we've also integrated sustainable techniques such as areas that will subtly flood in local rain but then disappear as that water evaporates. A few sketches to try to give you a feel of what that public realm might be. These are views looking at different parts of the public realm. So the images to the left, as you can see there, is looking towards Kenya Railway's headquarters, and we're beginning to look at how over time that might become a more integrated part of this development, breaking down, removing some of the landscaping and making the spaces join together. And the image on the right is a ceremonial approach. So if you imagine you've just left Haile Selassie Avenue and you're walking towards the station, this is the route that you would take. Looking towards the station at the end, there'd be grand lighting features, there'd be a park on one side, but you're always walking towards the station on a kind of a ceremonial axis. Coming back to the theme that the public realm is more than just an outdoor space, we're very much focused on what it feels like to leave the city, so the departures experience for passengers, but also the arrivals experience. What does it feel like when you arrive in Nairobi, use this great station, and immediately enter the city? So we've looked at those two spaces quite clearly, and you can see on the left and the right here, the experiences are quite different. As you're departing, you're focused on the station, you're drawn towards the station at the end of the public realm, and you're drawn into the building. But as you arrive at the station and you enter Nairobi, you're given this picture frame of the magnificent city that Nairobi is, and there's onward information as to how you connect onto forward transport such as taxis, cycles and even walking. We've talked a lot about how we can join the two spaces together during the course of this project, and we talk about bringing the outside in. How can we bring the nature, the biophilia, the planting of the public realm back into the building? And we've done that in a number of different ways. The most significant way is really actually introducing planting into the building, so it feels like the outside is inside and the inside is outside. But we've tried very hard also to break down the edges of the building, so actually you can easily get into the building, you can see the outside while you're inside, and it begins to feel more public and more part of the city is very much our ambition. Climate resilience, I think this is something that James mentioned earlier on, and we're very conscious that around the world the climate is changing, and we want to make sure that buildings such as transport interchanges and stations are as resilient as they can be. They'll be around for a long time, 100 plus years, so we want to make sure this building is designed in the right way. We've used sophisticated tools in our design to make sure that both the public space and the building are designed to ensure that they don't create difficulties in the years to come. The image that you can see on the left here is an analysis we were doing around the effect of wind on the public space, where we've actually tested the shape of the building and its relationship to some of the proposed development to ensure that we're not creating spaces that are too windy or that are actually uncomfortable to stand in. So there's been a lot of thought gone into the space, the shape and the arrangement of the spaces. On the top right there, you can see we've also done the same with what we call thermal radiance, which is testing the amount of heat that each part of the master plan will absorb and how much heat that will then give back to the spaces that people will inhabit. So you can see there's obviously the harder the spaces, the more heat that will be captured and then given back. And And we've been testing that throughout to make sure that the public space doesn't feel too hot to stand in as a member of the public. So looking at the station now in a little bit more detail, there's 2 or 3 key components to it before we go any further. We've designed the station to be expandable and flexible, so we're very conscious that the station plays a big part in connecting the city north and south. We envisage that the first step of delivering the station may be the north side of the station, but we've designed it such that a south side can also be added on in the future as and when that is required. There's 2 parts of the station for passengers, and they're both designed to reflect, incorporate and augment the historical buildings of the station that are currently there. To one side we have an entrance building, which is where passengers will arrive, where passengers will depart from Nairobi. It's much larger than the arrival side, which is on the opposite edge of the historical building. And that's because people tend to spend more time while departing, and there's more information needed and there's more ticketing that's required. So the entrance building is much larger than the exit building. Joining onto those, there'll then be bridges that connect from the main buildings to the platforms, and they'll take people over the tracks and then down onto each platform that's required for their onward journey. We try to keep the station as simple as possible. We want a very simple diagram and a very simple layout to ensure that people know how to move through the building intuitively. The basic arrangement is that at ground level, so the level that you would enter the station, that's largely public. That's where people will come in and can enjoy a coffee, buy a sandwich, or meet people without having to buy a ticket. There's an upper level, which we call the Station Concourse, that is only accessible to those with a ticket, and that will require passengers to buy a ticket, rise up through an escalator, and then, if necessary, wait on an upper level before accessing the trains. So we have a very clear security strategy where we have a public area and then we have a secure passenger area deeper into the station. As you can see here, then the diagram is actually quite simple in terms of how people move in and through the station. The shape of the building, the semicircular shape of the building, is designed in such a way that it attracts a front door to every direction that people might want to approach. And this is very important because although now the majority of people will approach the station from the north and walk towards it, in the future passengers will approach the station on all sides. So we need a building form that addresses every approach and presents a front door. So we have a semicircular form for the entrance. The principle is then that you move towards the centre of that semicircular form and then rise up onto the bridges and down onto the platforms. The process is very similar on the exit, where again you would rise from the platforms onto the access bridge and then exit into the public realm through the exit building. One of our more noticeable sustainable strategies is that we'll be covering the roof of the station in as many photovoltaic panels as we possibly can. Our preliminary calculations predict this will be around about 11,000 square metres of photovoltaic panels, and we believe that will generate enough power to serve all of the needs of the station in its day-to-day operations. So there is the potential here that the station could be entirely off-grid, if you like, and served only by the sun in terms of its powering of its generation. Another key theme that we're keen to explore is natural ventilation within the station. When we talk about sustainability, it's not just making sure it's built in a sustainable way, it's actually operationally sustainable as well. So that's looking at how we can reduce the amount of air conditioning that's required, or heating that's required, or ventilation that's required. So we've created a building that actually will naturally ventilate itself. It's open around the sides, which allows the cross winds to enter into the building, and it's designed in such a way that the hot air can then escape through vents at the roof level. So it drives a natural ventilation system that ensures we don't then have to add more power or use more power to ventilate or condition the spaces. Another key aspect of the architecture is can we and how do we make the best use of water within this development. The shape and the form of the roof in particular has been designed to collect rainwater. The ripples in the roof direct rainwater as it falls to the gullies within the roof, and then that directs the water then to storage tanks either within the ground or within other parts of the building. And the idea is that that rainwater can then be used for either the watering of the plants in the public realm, or it can be used within what we call the grey water systems of the station building, so that's the sinks and other things within the building. And coming back to this idea that this is an integrated space, it's not a building sitting in the middle of a public realm, it's actually one integrated place. This idea of water capture and water retention has been built into the design of our building. So you can see on the diagram here, the idea is that as the water is collected from the roof, it then is directed to the gullies, and it actually is then flows off the roof almost in a spout, and then is collected in a well, if you like, within the public realm. And these are all built in and designed to be a sort of integrated part of the space. The most magnificent part of the project, we believe, will be the main concourse. This will be a largely public space, and we've based this on a culture of coming together that we've recognised within Kenya. We recognise that around the theme of a boma. This is a space where people will be able to enter into the station without a ticket and use the facilities of retail, meet people, greet people, share a coffee or otherwise before entering into the paid side of the station. This will be a big open space. There won't be doors around the outside that will make people feel uncomfortable about entering or exiting. There will be security to ensure it is a secure place, but it will feel open. We talk about this as a democratic space for the city, somewhere where everybody's welcome, and it just so happens that it also connects with the trains. We want to use natural light as much as possible within the station. We want to ensure that the intuitive wayfinding is driven by the use of natural light within the building. So right in the centre of the station, where we move between levels from the concourse up to the access bridges, we have a very large roof light which will bring sunlight into the centre of the building and ensure that people move naturally towards that without relying on signage and otherwise. But another key part of that central space is that we're looking at how we can integrate planting and biophilia within that central space, and we're talking about it as a green lung. So the more planting we can get into this area of the building, the more opportunity we have to scrub the air, to clean the air within the station using plants as a way of taking out particulates. So we've looked at integrating planting in the lower levels on the walls. We've also looked at integrating it in the higher level to ensure that the air that is circulating in the station at that point is as clean as possible. We talk about it as the green lung almost of the station. I think finally, just to end, I do want to come back to this point that this design is very much focused on the people of Kenya. What we're trying to do here is to create something that the country and the city will be proud of and they will really embrace as a new way of travel. We've created spaces that are big, that are generous, that are open, that are welcoming, but also they do tell a story of what I think the future of sustainable design is in this sector of the building industry. And that was all I was going to say. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you, Chris. A really inspirational design. As Chris said, this is a project that touches a wide number of stakeholders in Kenya, and we're very fortunate this morning to have senior representatives of Kenya Railways, the National Treasury, the Ministry of Transport, and Nairobi Metropolitan Services, who I'll invite up shortly to reflect and give their reactions to the design. But before I do, let me invite up to the stage for some initial remarks from the Deputy High Commissioner from the UK to Kenya, His Excellency Julius Courts. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. General Badi, Pastor Rita, Chair of the Board, and all your colleagues from Kenya Railways, permanent secretaries and other senior officials, just a huge thank you for all your terrific partnership on this project. You've walked with us and it's really meant a lot. To the G7 lead for the Prime Minister of the UK, Jonathan, welcome to Kenya, and thank you very much for joining us at this launch. And to Chris and to James and to all those partners from KPMG, from Atkins, from Arup, and all your wider partners. Thank you. I mean, it's hard not to be incredibly excited, amazed. I mean, the vision is extraordinary, but that attention to detail, it really shines through. And just thank you for absolutely terrific work. So friends, forgive me. I want to come at this with three rather personal reflections that I hope highlight the wider issues. So the first one is that My family lived near the King's Cross area. We've lived there for about 30 years, actually. We're not from there. I'm from Newcastle, not that you'd ever know. But we lived near the King's Cross area. And for those of you who know that area, 30-odd years ago, it was not the most desirable part of London to live in. Issues of crime, etc. But if you go there now, because of the regeneration, it's absolutely inspiring. You have the British Library is there, you have the regenerated St. Pancras station, and you've now had Google headquarters coming in. Their campus in the UK is there. And the point being that these regeneration efforts, when they're done right, like that King's Cross one was, they're absolutely inspiring, and they really just, they fizz, and they create that really that amazing effect, not just within the station, but within the wider part of the city. So the second very personal reflection is in 2020, after the Prime Minister had met with President Kenyatta, His Excellency President Kenyatta called a few of us in, and he basically said, look, I want you guys, to get on this. And we talked for a long time, and all his people were getting more and more nervous as he was about to miss his flight and was holding up the KQ flight. He was very, very excited about it. And the point was, he said, I want this done really well, and I want this done by you, the UK. And I hope that when he sees these plans, he feels that we've met that brief. And the third very personal reflection is before moving to the King's Cross area, I was actually born and grew up here in Kenya. So I was at St. Mary's School here until I was 10. And I remember that railway area as being, a really vibrant area. And I think we can really take it to a new level. And so I see that as a very sort of, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out and how this exciting project comes to fruition. So colleagues, forgive me for a personal take on this project, but I hope it sort of gives that sense of what these really transformative regeneration projects can do, and particularly around railway and multimodal transport. Two more official things. So when His Excellency President Kenyatta was in London in 2020, he agreed with the Prime Minister the UK Strategic Partnership. And we're very proud that we feel that our relationship with Kenya is at a high watermark because of that leadership. And this covers many, many things. It covers issues of security, it covers issues of prosperity, climate change, development, and the very, very close people-to-people links that we have. And this project just feels like the signature next step in that partnership. We've signed great deals. East Africa's biggest solar farm is UK supported in Malindi County, Kilifi County, Malindi Solar. We've just agreed in Kisumu a 230 million agriculture project, an agri-processing project that will be in Kisumu County. Really major investment in Kenya, showing that Kenya is open for business and actually even beyond here in Nairobi. People tend to focus on Nairobi, but our partnership is much wider across the country and across all themes. So really my job is to say thank you to the team. You've done an absolutely wonderful job. It's truly inspiring. To say again thank you to Nairobi Metropolitan government, to Kenya Railways, and to wider government of Kenya, National Treasury, Ministry for Infrastructure, etc. And to say to all the UK firms that are either in the room or online, we really look forward to working with you on this. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And together we will make it all happen. Colleagues, thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you, Julius. And now there are a great many people who are going to have to make this particular project happen. But if there's one person who really needs to believe in this design, then it would be my friend, the Managing Director of Kenya Railways. So let me turn first to him for some quick reflections and some quick remarks, please. Mr. Philip Mainga, welcome. No? He's just...
has communicated. But just to really appreciate the partnership that we have had and to recognize Mr. Shaba, the Prime Minister, Mr. Jonathan Brack, and all the invited guests, including our leaders, Mr. Badi, my chairman, my PS Treasury, who is represented here, and the rest of the guests who are here. What we have been doing together with the consultants, and they have presented their notes here, what we have been doing is to avail our land, and I know we would have seen 2-3 slides there, but we started this project a year or 2-3 years ago in the partnership, and we have made a lot of progress. And what we are looking at is a transit-oriented city, railway city, in Nairobi Central District. And we are looking forward, and what we are looking forward for is, and I would want to ask is, we have done most of the things now. What we require is implementation of the city. We just want to implement that city. We have had a lot of support from Nairobi Metropolitan services. We have had a lot of support from the government, and a lot of support, just to appreciate the UK government for supporting us in the consultancy for both what we have seen, and also having KPMG with us throughout this season in terms of doing a lot of reviews, including doing a lot of research on what we needed to implement as a railway city. So I would request, because we are here just to review and see the progress that we are going to make, what I would request is, going forward, what are then the milestones that we need to make? What are the consultations that we need to make sure that by July or before August, we break ground? That is why we are all here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MD. And on the subject of making things happen and turning them from beautiful images and videos to real projects on the ground, we're pleased to be joined here by many members of the Kenya Railways Board, but in particular, we, as well as the Chair, General Wita, we have also Mr. Humphrey Muhu, who is both a director at the National Treasury, but also the National Treasury's representative on the board of Kenya Railways, and therefore a really key person in helping to make this happen. So please, may I invite you, please, Mr. Humphrey Muhu. Thank you.
Good morning. This lot had been assigned to my DG, Engineer Kamau, but he was not able to join this meeting, so he told me to come and represent him. And so I'm just going to share what would I like to share in this meeting. Thank you very much. Mr. Jonathan Black, the Sherpa for the Prime Minister of the UK, Your Excellency Julius Court, the Deputy British High Commissioner to Kenya, Dr. Engineer Joseph Njoroge, the PS Transport, Lieutenant General Mohammad Badi, you can see he's here, the DG NMS, and I can also see the representatives of the KRC board, Martin Mwonje, the chairman, is also here, Hassan Alawi, Duncan Hunda, the MD, the consultants actually who have, helped us in structuring all this design. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Hamjamboni. I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this event and all those present to witness the launch of the final design for the Railway City Central Station. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that Kenya and the UK have a long-standing a social and economic relationship, stretching way back with the building of the railway line from Mombasa to Uganda through Nairobi more than a century ago. As captured in the book Lunatic Express by Charles Miller, George Whitehouse arrived in East African coast, the port of Mombasa, way back in 1885 to perform an engineering miracle. That is the building of the Mombasa-Nairobi Lake Victoria railway line. This is a 600-mile route that was largely unmapped and barely unexplored. Behind Mombasa lay a scorched, waterless desert. Beyond was a horizonless scrap country towards a jagged volcanic region bisected by the Great Rift Valley. And 100 miles of sport-like quagmire marked the railway's last lap to Uganda. In fact, earlier this week, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Kenya, through the National Treasury, was represented at the rebranding of the UK's government CDC, that's the Commonwealth Development Corporation, to British International Investment. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the CS National Treasury and Planning to be part of this milestone and to witness the launch and handover of the final design of the central station and the public realm as a precursor to the implementation of Phase 1 of Nairobi Railway City. In the spirit and intent of both governments in supporting His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta's B4 agenda, the National Treasury and Planning will endeavor to provide the necessary support to the project to achieve the primary objective of a transit-oriented development for Nairobi Metropolitan area. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently reviewing an MOU between the two governments to ensure that Kenya continues to benefit from the relationship with the UK government, and in particular in the implementation of the Railway City project. We want to take this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister, Sharper, and the British High Commissioner in Kenya for ensuring that this project receives the highest consideration in the continued development of Kenya. Thank you very much, and karibuni.
Wonderful, Mr. Muhu, thank you so much. Now this is a really significant project within the context of Kenya Railways, absolutely, but it is also a very significant project in the context of the wider metropolis of Nairobi. And so with that in mind, it's my great honour this morning to introduce next the Director General of Nairobi Metropolitan Services, Lieutenant General Mohammad Badi. Welcome.
The Sharper for Prime Minister of UK, Jonathan Black, Your Excellency Julia Scott, the Deputy British High Commissioner, Principal Secretary, State Department of Transport, Infrastructure, Urban Development and Public Works, Dr. Njoroge, my colleagues, Director General Investment at the National Treasury, Engineer Kamau, Chairman of Board of Kenya Railways, and the Railway Board members, MD Philip Mainga, all protocol observers, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Nairobi. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to Her Majesty's government for the assistance offered to the government of Kenya in supporting part of the implementation of Nairobi Integrated Urban Plan Development through the Nairobi Railway City project, which is one of the key anchor projects for redevelopment of Nairobi City. The Nairobi Railway City project seeks to establish a new heart for the betterment of Nairobi in alignment with our vision for Nairobi City County. In partnership with Kenya Railways, one of the NMS support roles has been to ensure that the integrated urban areas and cities development plan that inform the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Plan are affected seamlessly in the Nairobi Railway Implementation Plan and aligning all of the city development with some of the key outcomes from the UN climate change talks that were held in Glasgow. In readiness with the implementation of Phase 1, the county government has embarked and in some instances completed some of the major transport-oriented infrastructure projects, such as decongestion of the central business district. I think it had been mentioned earlier on here, we'll have different bus terminals that will remove all our PSV vehicles from the CBD, and they'll be located at their various bus terminals. Also enhancement of non-motorized transport, the NMT corridors. For those who live in Nairobi know now that there are walkways connecting CBD and cycleways to our estates and beyond. Rehabilitation of horizontal service infrastructure, as well as renewal of the main public parks within the metropolitan area. Finally, it gives us great pleasure to be part of the launch and handover of the final design of Central Station and Public Rim, and express our readiness to provide additional support for the site commitments within the life of this administration. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Lieutenant General, thank you. And now we have just two more speakers for you this morning. And I guess first let me introduce our final speaker from the Government of Kenya, from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. We're very pleased to welcome the Principal Secretary, Dr. Engineer Joseph Njoroge. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and let me acknowledge several dignitaries here, starting with the Shepherd, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Jonathan Brack, Your Excellency Julius Scott, the Deputy High Commissioner in Kenya, our Director General in the city, Lieutenant General Badi, the Director General with the National Treasury and Planning, who was represented here by Mr. Humphrey Mohu, the Chairman of the Kenya Railways Board, the implementer of this project, Pastor Awita, and other board members, the Managing Director of the Implementing Agency, Philip Mainga, some staff from the State Department of Transport led by Duncan Huda, who are here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and other distinguished guests. I am pleased to be joining you today as part of the team that is planning and deliberating on the improvement of our major city, the city of Nairobi, which sits on the northern corridor and which is also a strategic link between our seaport of Mombasa and several countries which are landlocked on the western side and on the northern side. Very key link to all these corridors. Indeed, this makes the city a very key logistic link to in the continent and globally, because several goods imported to Mombasa have to pass through the city to be linked to the other countries in the northern side and the western side of our country. Nairobi Railway City project will therefore transform this city into a modern landmark city with a well-connected intermodal transport system surrounded by new business, housing and social neighborhood. Indeed, I am aware of an ongoing initiative by the Kenya Airways to even introduce drones as part of logistics between the CBD and the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Recently, we've just started using the express highway between the city, CBD, and the international airport, and further west to very populous part of Nairobi, the western part of Nairobi. All this is a demonstration of our resolve to ensuring that this city serves its inhabitants in an effective and efficient manner. And I therefore want to re-emphasize our government's commitment to ensuring seamless execution of the Nairobi Railway City project, and in particular phase 1 project components as presented here today. This phase of the project integrates seamlessly with other ongoing transport-oriented development, such as the Green Park Matatu Terminus, which is bringing order to the use of public transport within the city and its neighborhood. Then there is the first phase of the BRT line, the commuter rail expansion, introduction of metro lines and non-motorized transport in line with the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Plan. And also as a contribution to His Excellency's President Uhuru Kenyatta's ongoing Big Four agenda. Because this logistics is indeed an enabler of the entire mix of the Big Four agenda. I am happy with the progress so far, and I therefore would like to thank all those involved in the One Government Approach multi-agency team that has been set up jointly by our respective ministries of the National Treasury and Planning, the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works, the Office of the Attorney General, and the government agencies which have been involved for the sole purpose of ensuring the project is fully implemented within the laid down timelines of this administration. I challenge the team, what we are calling the multi-agency team, which is involved in this very important task of the railway city, to transition from talking to walking. We need to see the implementation of the project so that the citizens can start realizing the benefit of this very key project. Finally, I am pleased to inform those present here today that our government, working closely with Her Majesty's government through the British High Commission in Kenya, has prepared a memorandum of understanding for the delivery of this key infrastructure project in Kenya and others. And we are in the process of setting up a date for the signing, where the cornerstone of this MOU is the progression of the design as seen today here in the full implementation. And therefore, we are bracing ourselves for full implementation and delivery of this key project. With the dedication and commitment from both governments of the Republic of Kenya and Her Majesty's, we are going to accomplish this task within the set timelines and of course within the budget. We are very committed as a multi-agency team to ensuring that this key project adds to the very, very many other projects that have made this Nairobi city to be a key logistics city in the continent. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you all.
PS, thank you so much. It's a real honor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you this morning our final speaker. He's a visitor from the United Kingdom. He is the Deputy National Security Advisor, but also the Prime Minister's Sherpa to both the G7 and the G20. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonathan Black, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And Lieutenant General, Principal Secretary, Directors General, members of the Board of Kenya Railways and other distinguished guests, it's a pleasure to be here. The thing about speaking last is that everybody said everything you wanted to say, but if you'll forgive me, there are a few remarks I would like to say for myself, because it's a real privilege and pleasure to be here at the launch, at least of this phase of this project, to see the fantastic designs for Kenya, for Nairobi railway city, and as the Principal Secretary said, this is the start of this phase. We now need to walk the walk, and we look forward to doing that with you. But I know when I report back to my Prime Minister next week, he will be really, really pleased to see the progress that we've made and what he and President Kenyatta talked about when they met just over a year ago. Now, this is not my first time in Kenya, but I'm sorry to say it's my first time in over 10 years. But the thing that strikes you is how much things have changed, and that is, I think, really why we're here today, because cities have always been the engine of change in every country. It's certainly the case in the UK, and I'm sure and can see that it's the case here. And the challenge for cities today is not just to be that engine of growth, of jobs and prosperity, but also to be a change in a way that can be smarter, cleaner, greener, and make sure that cities are brilliant places for people to live. And what's sort of interesting about this project, and Deputy High Commissioner touched on it, is that the conversation you're clearly having here in Nairobi is exactly the same conversation we've had in the UK about London and elsewhere. It's been our big railway sites, some of our former industrial sites. I don't think any of them quite as big as this. I think King's Cross that you referred to is, I think this is 4 times that size. But the point is still there, that these big areas of sort of former transportation and industrial use can be massive engines of change in a city, and it's really, really exciting to be working on that together. And I think that is part of the reason why I'm really, really pleased that the UK and Kenya have been able to work on this project, because I'm sure that we have learnt a lot from each other and will learn more as we go on. And I'd therefore like just to acknowledge clearly what's been a brilliant partnership within the Kenyan government, between the Kenyan and British governments, but also the contribution of British companies as well, Arup, KPMG, Howard Humphreys, and of course Atkins. Thank you all for the work that you have done on that. Now, the reason why I'm actually here is obviously for this, but is also to take forward the wider strategic partnership that the President and the Prime Minister agreed when they met. And I've got meetings later today and tomorrow with Kenyan governments and others on that, and really looking forward to doing that. For us, this is a really important partnership. Even at sort of busy times around the world with lots going on, it's really important that we prioritise things like this, and the relationship for the UK government with Kenya is absolutely critical. And I hope that that partnership can lead to stronger government relations, but also business to business, people to people as well. And there's obviously a huge amount to build on, including from what we see in the room here today. And I'd like to thank and acknowledge the work of the British Chamber of Commerce in helping British and Kenyan businesses do all that you do. And I think Britain is the biggest international investor in Kenya, which is great, but that should be a platform for building on further, not just a platform on which to rest. And that is what our partnership's all about. But to bring it back to this project, I hope, and I think the Prime Minister would hope, that this project can be an exemplar of what we hope can be what this wider partnership is all about. We are looking at trying to reform and modernise the way we go about doing our development and export finance in the UK. We published a new strategy on that this week. Last year, our Foreign Secretary launched British Investment International, which I know is has a very significant presence here in Kenya, and the Principal Secretary's just referred to the new MOU, which we're really excited about on finance and partnership here. So going back to sort of where we started, this partnership is really important to us, but I hope this project can be a real symbol of it. And when I come back next time, hopefully in less than 10 years, I look forward to coming from the airport on a railway line into this station and seeing how it's developed. So thank you very much. Thank you for the hospitality whilst I'm here, and many thanks again to everyone who's been involved in getting this to this stage. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Now just in closing, I think what I would like to do, if I may, is invite actually each of our speakers up onto the stage, where we're going to do a formal handover of the design and a short photo opportunity for the media. I also, in addition to the electronic version, have a printed copy of the design also. So please, if I could ask you, Lieutenant General PS, Jonathan and Chris also, Police MD and General Owita, and Mr. Muhu, wonderful. Please do. There's steps around this side if you don't feel up to jumping. So please do come and join us on stage. Can I give you that?
Do I hand it?
I will hand it across to in the centre. Maybe General Badi and PS in the centre with you. No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Oh, sorry. It's fine. You ready? Wonderful. Yeah, and maybe just turn the thing so we can see. Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. And I think I might declare this design officially adopted in 3, 2, 1, and it's real. There we go. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. On your way down, please do pass by the boards and take a quick look. We have a number of detail design boards around the back. Now, before I wrap up this session, I should just say, particularly for those of you from industry, we will have a short 5 to 10 minute break for coffee now, where you can reflect on what a beautiful thing this station is going to be. But also for those of you who are of a more practical bent and are thinking about sort of commercial opportunities connected to this project, we'll have actually, after a 5-minute break, we'll run a small sort of Q&A session in a bit more of an informal roundtable. So if you do want to come back, learn more about the details of the project, how different bits are going to be taken forward, James, Chris and others will be available for a bit of a technical Q&A at a more sort of industry level. So please do join for that. But really, this is to bring a close to the formal session, and so really it's mine just to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Thanks to the Chamber again for helping us to put this event on, and thank you in particular to our speakers, the MD, Chair of Kenya Railways, Mr. Muhu, National Treasury, Lieutenant General NMS, and Principal Secretary from the Ministry of Transport, as well as my boss, most importantly, but also technically His Excellency, Mr. Julius Court. Thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Good morning.
How you doing? We've had a very intriguing conversation on what the railway station will do to Nairobians. But maybe to break down some of the major changes or some of the expectation you think the railway will bring to Nairobians for the people who are watching us live right now.
Yes, Nairobi integrated to link all the railway lines coming outside the city into CBD, from CBD using the BRT buses to the bus terminus, and then the passengers from the bus terminus can now take their respective PSV to their destination, and vice versa. So we are really looking forward to link all these transport lines between railways and the PSV vehicles, so that we save time with the traffic jams. Of course, there is an elaborate plan to decongest Nairobi CBD by building 6 terminals, as explained earlier. This now will decongest the CBD. People will be free to walk. There are already walkways and cycleways. So the transport arena will completely change. We are going to have a dedicated line from CBD to the airport. And it's going to take 27 minutes to reach the airport. So from CBD to airport, inside the terminal.
Okay.
So that line is under construction now. As soon as it's ready, it will be launched. And in the future, you'll be able to check in at the railway station and check in with the airport ticket, and your luggage goes direct in the air. But these are still work in progress. We are testing all our lines to ensure that there is proper communication to all the wananchi. Once we launch the bus terminus, people will be informed on various routes, their destinations, and which line to take from the terminus. And I think Nairobi will revolutionize in terms of transportation, will be more efficient, and people transiting to and from work from Nairobi will find it much easier when the railway and the bus transport are integrated.
Fantastic. Generally, you've been very quiet on politics.
Yes.
Since you took over Nairobi.
Yes.
Has it been intentional, or you're eyeing a different position?
No. I'm still uniformed, so I avoid politics. Mine is just to make sure that all the projects that have to be implemented in Nairobi, we have a timeline to finish by August, before elections. And I assure Nairobians, all the projects that were handed over to me will be completed by August, before election.
Okay. We've seen you do a lot of changes, from the cycling path, the walk path, and now the station is coming up.
Yeah.
What are some of the hurdles that you've had to go through to get these things done?
I think the first hurdle was working in the 2 levels of government. Nairobi County is at the county level, county government, and we also sit at national government. So integrating the 2 where people were not used to, people found it difficult, but it is easy to work at both levels of government, and I think it becomes even easier to have 2 levels of governments rather than county government, because then you depend on revenue of national government and county government, and it becomes easier once you have the money from both governments. to implement the projects meant.
Interesting. Even maybe as we come to the end of this conversation, are you in Kenya Kwanza or Azimio la Umoja?
As I said, I'm in the military. KDF is non-partisan.
Okay.
It has always been, and KDF is not involved in any party. Once you are a KDF a member of KDF, you are not allowed to be associated with any political party. So we remain neutral, and I think it's better that way for some of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, General. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end of the launch of the Central Station that has been handed over by General Badi to the committee that now will see it brought to fruition and everything implemented. That has been Marvin Gakonyi with Kenyans.co.ke. See you next time.